Okay guys, so your next video we'll have a look at disparities in wealth and development. Again, it's the question that you've just done. You'll see here that the graphs refer to Millennium Development Goal number 1. I hope you know what Millennium Development Goal number 1 is. Okay, so you've got some graphs here. First questions didn't cause people too many problems. For this question, they did allow a range for the states. They did allow a range for this question here. Identify the year when this region was first met its target, and that range is between 1998 and the year 2000. They're pretty simple questions which we didn't have a problem with. Moving on, this next question here suggests 2 reasons why some regions may not have reached their target. So again, we see this trend, this thing coming through of 2 plus 2. So just as we saw earlier on in the explain type question, suggest is similar to an explain. Suggest is actually a mini explain. It means the same as explain briefly. So suggest or explain briefly 2 reasons why some regions may not have met their target by 2015. And the sort of answers that they will be looking for here are, let me have a look at my list actually. So you could say things like natural disasters. Now if you just stopped it at natural disaster, you'd only get the 1 point. You do need to go on to say, to clarify what you mean by that is natural disasters, destroying the economy, causing problems with infrastructure. Things that they would accept here are population growth outstripping resources, okay, and then you'll get into an overshoot situation, corruption and misappropriation of financial resources. Again, that leads to an inefficient economy. Global recession, and certainly that's been a problem recently for many countries, global recession causing those targets to not be met in 2015. War and conflict, Syria would be a good example of that. You just need to briefly explain what you feel the problems war and conflict would cause. Also, one you could put in there is HIV, affecting the economically active part of the population. Their concern here is that there are gross generalizations. So, for example, if you said something like uneducated, people are uneducated, you wouldn't get anything for that. They would want you to say something like this. Rather than uneducated, you would say there's a lack of formal or good quality education opportunities. And this means the economy can't grow. So they don't want those generalisation. They also do need to be 2 distinctive things, 2 different things. So if you said 2 things about population growth, even though they're slightly different, you would only get a maximum of 2 out of 4. So the reasons do need to be very different. So excellent if you said, talked about population growth, and then you talked about corruption. Okay, so those 2 do need to be different. This question here, it's an explain question. Notice the questions here, that's worth 5. So that's reflected in the amount of space that they give you here. So the amount of space they actually give you is a good guidance along with a number of marks for the question. This is a 5-part question. Explain, you should be clear what explain means. This is command term. Unlike an essay, you don't have to say what explain means. You can, for this 5-point question, you can just go straight to it. So it says here, trade and market access can sometimes help reduce disparities between countries. So the 2 parts here, you need to talk about both of them. There's trade, that is the exchange of goods between countries. Lots of you talked about South Korea as a really good example. Some of you talked about Thailand as well, engaging in increased trade. Now what that means is that trade redistributes income from rich countries to poorer countries, and it creates employment. So that could help to reduce the disparities because you're getting money into the country, getting people employed, increasing the taxation that that government can have. Market access. This was slightly more difficult, and I think in the lessons we need to go and have a look back again at market access. What they're talking about here are trade agreements. So that's quite hard to do. One of the things that you could talk about is the World Trade Organization. Maybe we'll look about that in more detail in the lesson. But the important thing is that these trade agreements, what they do is they open up new markets for people, open up new trading relationships between countries. So you put in a trade agreement, it is going to help to develop the country. Just because we've got increase in trade, which help develop the economy, and increase in market access, doesn't necessarily mean disparities between the countries will be reduced. It does say here sometimes, and that's an important clue. When you see the word sometimes in an IB exam, there is a potential there to say actually they don't. So here you could also say in some circumstances the market access actually increased the disparities. The trade increased the disparities between countries. So here you could talk about unfair trade, meaning that the country receiving the products exploits the exporting country. Again, sometimes policies intended to improve the market access actually have the reverse effect. They decrease the market access. So we'll have a chat about this in class. Possible explanations could focus on, and here we're talking about market access, could focus on removing tariff barriers, creating free ports, free trade zones, reducing the protectionism, reducing the control of imports and exports. So you need to go on. The rest of the response should look at how this has increased access, has helped reduce disparities. So it's actually saying that getting wealth into the country and helping the economy to develop decreases the disparities between countries. Notice it does say between countries and not within a country. So be careful about that. Nobody actually slipped in to talking about disparities within a country. Next video, we will move on to patterns in environmental quality and sustainability. This was the section that you guys did the best, and I was very, very pleased with some of your answers on this one.